In tonight's headlines, Chief Executive John Lee says Hong Kong is happy and well prepared to welcome more than 1 million mainland visitors over the National Day and Golden Week holiday. Mainland deep-sea submersible, which has been a veteran in leading scientific expeditions, makes its first trip to Hong Kong. And Hong Kong and mainland stocks skyrocket after China's central bank unleashes a broad package of monetary stimulus measures to revive the world's second-largest economy.
Hong Kong is ready to welcome visitors, said Chief Executive John Lee, and nearly 1.2 million mainland tourists are projected to head south during the upcoming National Day holiday, a 20% increase from last year.
特別喺黃金週以及我哋喺國慶當日舉辦嘅活動。
Speaking at a media section before the weekly Executive Council meeting, Lee said various activities and a fireworks and drone show will attract a significant number of mainlanders to the SAR during the Golden Week break. More than 850 tour groups have Hong Kong on their itinerary, with most planning to stay overnight, Lee said. Every government bureau and department is fully prepared to handle the tsunami of visitors, and sufficient manpower is deployed at border control points to ensure smooth transition, said Lee. With the Kai Tak Sports Park ready to open earlier next year, Lee said, starting November, Chief Secretary Eric Chan's interdepartmental team will conduct trials to test the multi-purpose sports venues' efficiency and safety. Lee emphasized that the exercise should not only focus on crowd control, but also consider different time frames and weather conditions. And with 2 giant pandas set to arrive in the city on Thursday, the city's leader said the government will hold a contest to name the bears. Currently, the male is called An An and the female is called Ke by the staff at the park in Sichuan. People can expect to see the pandas sometime in December after they complete quarantine procedures. Evelyn Bai, Cable News.
A technological marvel made an unannounced stop in Hong Kong this morning. The mainland's domestically developed Jiaolong deep-sea submersible arrived in the SAR after wrapping up a 45-day scientific expedition in the Western Pacific Ocean. The crew of the submersible and its mothership, the Shanghai Yihao, and the onboard scientists were given a warm welcome by the city officials and a group of students at Ocean Terminal in Tsim Sha Tsui. Deputy Chief Secretary Warner Choke, part of the initial group to tour the vessels, said that both the Jiaolong and Shanghai Yihao play a crucial role in China's leadership of a project focused on deep-sea habitats, which is part of the United Nations Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development scheme. He also remarked that their visit to the SAR fully demonstrates the central government's care and support for Hong Kong. During their 3-day port call, the International Research Expedition team aboard, which includes Professor Qiu Jianwen from the Baptist University, postdoctoral research fellow Wang Qi from the City University, and postdoctoral research fellow Zhang Shan from the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, will hold lectures and give an insight into their research. Chok encouraged Hong Kongers, especially the youth, to learn about marine science and actively participate in international deep-sea research projects. The vessels will sail back to the mainland and deliver samples of deep-sea organisms, seawater and sediment collected during its latest mission. Since its launch in 2009, Jiaolong has explored waters in the Pacific Ocean, Indian Ocean, and the Atlantic Ocean with over 900 deep-sea dives. Quentin Yang, Cable News.
At his press briefing this morning, Chief Executive John Lee stated that Xia Baolong, the director of the State Council's Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office, has acknowledged the work of the SAR government.
改革嘅時候要注意系統關係。
After meeting Xia in Beijing last week, Lee said the director commended the SAR government's approach to implementing reforms, which has led to progress in various areas and has invigorated the atmosphere in the city. Li highlighted the significance of understanding the systemic relationships involved in reforms, ensuring a balance between immediate and long-term goals, as well as macro and micro perspectives. Xia also called for unity among various sectors of society, especially the business sector and entrepreneurs, who would translate their patriotism and love for Hong Kong interactions through tangible efforts.
Former student leader Kinson Chen's request for early release was denied by the High Court. Chen was jailed for praising a knife attack on a police officer during the social unrest 3 years ago. He was jailed for 2 years, but the sentences were later reduced to 15 months. Chen was seeking a 1/3 reduction in his sentence, citing good behavior. The Correctional Services Department stated that reducing Chen's sentence further would be detrimental to national security. Based on documents submitted by the CSD, which are decisions made by the Committee for Safeguarding National Security, Judge Anna Lai rejected Chen's plea for early release.
任何案件如果涉及國家安全，
Speaking at the Executive Council meeting, Chief Executive Zhang Li, who chairs the Committee for Safeguarding National Security, refrained from commenting on specific details of the case, but said that endangering national security is a serious crime. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.
唔好係上。
Foreign Minister Wang Yi met with his Japanese counterpart Yoko Kamikawa at the United Nations in New York to discuss critical bilateral issues. Wang stated that the stabbing of a 10-year-old Japanese boy in Shenzhen was an isolated incident and assured Kamikawa of Beijing's commitment to protecting all foreign nationals living in China, urging Japan to avoid making this incident a political issue. Kamikawa expressed concern over the impact of the stabbing on people-to-people exchanges and called for a thorough investigation to prevent future occurrences. She also urged action against anti-Japanese sentiments online. The discussion included the controversial discharge of treated wastewater from Japan's Fukushima nuclear plant, with Wang reiterating China's opposition and emphasizing Japan's obligation to long-term international monitoring. Kamikawa also raised serious concerns about recent incursions by Chinese military aircraft into Japanese airspace and the installation of buoys in Japan's exclusive economic zone. Both ministers stressed the need for ongoing dialogue and cooperation to ensure regional peace and stability.
Israel has continued bombing Hezbollah targets in southern Lebanon, killing more than 550 people, including 35 children. More than 1,600 people were wounded as Israel focuses on the Iran-backed militia group. Overnight airstrikes damaged roads, razed buildings to the ground in Lebanon's south, forcing tens of thousands to flee from their homes.
I have a message for the people of Lebanon. Israel's war is not with you. It's with Hezbollah.
In a video statement addressed to the Lebanese people, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu blamed Hezbollah for the tragedy and warned the civilians to evacuate areas where the armed movement was storing weapons. Israeli military claimed that the airstrikes were launched to thwart terror attacks against Israel planned by Hezbollah, and in the preemptive strikes, nearly 1,800 Hezbollah targets were hit, significantly destroying the militia group's infrastructure. In retaliation, Hezbollah fired more than 200 rockets into northern Israel. World powers have been urging restraint, as both sides appear to be spiraling towards an all-out war. Foreign Minister Wang Yi met with his Lebanese counterpart Abdallah Bo-Habib in New York today, on the sidelines of a United Nations summit. Wang expressed support for Lebanon and condemned what he termed indiscriminate attacks against civilians. Meanwhile, the U.S. President Joe Biden said Washington was working to de-escalate in a way that allows people to return home safely. The Pentagon said it was sending a small number of additional troops to the Middle East as a precautionary measure. Quentin Yang, Cable News.
The Hang Seng Index surged 4.1%, crossing the 19,000-point mark to register its biggest gain in 18 months. Mainland stocks also gained ground after the government unleashed stimulus packages to boost the economy. The Shanghai Composite Index soared 4.15% to 2,863 points. The windfall came after China's central bank announced a series of measures to revive the world's second-largest economy, including cutting the reserve requirements ratio for banks by 0.5 percentage points and lowering a key short-term interest rate. This was the first instance since 2015 when a reduction was implemented in both measures on the same day. The move is expected to inject almost 1 trillion yuan into the financial market. At a press briefing, Pan Gongsheng, governor of the People's Bank of China, said that the central bank would cut the 7-day repo rate by 0.2 percentage points to 1.5%, aiming to guide downward adjustments in the prime lending rate and deposit rates. Another reduction of 0.25 to 0.5 basis points could follow by the end of this year, Pan added. To drive the sluggish property markets, Pan revealed that the central bank will guide lenders to reduce the interest rates on existing individual mortgages by an average of about 0.5 percentage points and ease the down payment of second-home buyers to 15% from 25%. The reduced ratio is expected to benefit 15 million households and cut interest expenditure by roughly 150 billion yuan per year. For the stock market, the central bank plans to introduce structural monetary policy for the first time, including swap facilities for securities, funds, and insurance companies, as well as stock buyback and refinancing. The initial liquidity support will be 500 billion yuan, Pan said. Evelyn Bai, Cable News.